Hey guys, how's it going out there? Hope you guys are doing well. So today we're going to be talking about good old classic Pixar because Pixar is not doing too good. They just had their recent movie Eli. I think it's Elo. Elo just came out, and it has not been doing too good at the box office. I've read reports that it's either their biggest bomb so far, or it's one of them. Either way, it has not been doing too good at the box office. And that kind of begs the question of where exactly is Pixar going to go from here? Because I think it was like a year or two ago, Pixar said that their solution to not being in a good spot was to start making more sequels, which to me is just fucking insane. The idea that their mindset was to just make more sequels as a solution to them not, being, where they want to be is insane. But they've gone forward with that. I mean, we got Incredibles 3 coming out, we got Cars 4 coming out. They're going to be making Inside Out 3. They're going to be making probably another Finding Nemo at some point. They got Toy Story 5 coming out next year. So I mean, they've definitely gone all in on the sequel binge. But at the same time, Pete Docter, the head of Pixar, came out recently, and he kind of pretty much said, like, yeah, we're aware that, like, we can't just keep making sequels because then we'll be, like, on Toy Story 27. And at that point, it'll just be fucked. Because the thing about sequels, and we've seen this with, like, Marvel, Star Wars, a lot of major properties, that there can come a point where people just lose interest. And, like, if people stop caring about Toy Story and Incredibles and Cars, and they stop seeing these sequels, well, then what do you have? Because, like, if you build your entire deal around just having franchises and sequels and spin-offs and reboots, well, then what happens when people get tired of, like, Incredibles 10 or Toy Story 16 or Ratatouille 8? Then where are you at? You have nothing. It's like, but at the same time, it seems kind of like a double edged sword because Pixar has made like a few original films in the last few years. They made Elemental, they made Elo, they made Soul, Turning Red. I think was also Pixar. So they made a few original films over the last few years, and a lot of them have been received pretty well. I think Turning Red was like one of the few ones that was not received the best. But the other ones have been received pretty good. It's just like the box office reception has not been too good for them. And I think also that kind of goes to how Pixar was kind of handled during the pandemic because there was a period, right when the pandemic happened for like a few years where anything Pixar related was just straight to Disney Plus. Like there was no theatrical releases. And then even after like films started coming back into theaters, like Pixar was still like straight to Disney Plus. And so a lot of people had the mindset of, well, we don't really need to go see a Pixar film because it's going to be on Disney Plus instantly. And that was even the case when I think they started releasing films back in the theaters. Like it was like a simultaneous release on like Disney Plus, and then they would be in theaters. And so I think that definitely hurt Pixar for a while. Is that they were just strictly non in theaters. They were all strictly on Disney Plus, and especially back then, even after we were getting out of the pandemic, people still had the mindset of like, well, I'd rather watch this at home than go see it in the theater. And then, like, even when you hear about a Pixar film coming out, people would still be like, well, yeah, I'll catch it at home or whenever. And so that definitely hurt Pixar for sure. But I mean, they've also had some very big success. I mean, Inside Out 2, I believe at the time became the highest grossing animated film of all time. And I remember back then people were like, oh, Pixar's back now. And I was like, well, I mean, to me, the thing is, because people have said this about Marvel, like Marvel will have like a big movie, like the one of the last Spider-Man movies or, something like that. And I'll be like, oh, Marvel's back. It's like, well, no, it takes more than one film. No matter how massively successful a film is, you need more than just a film. Because if you have a good film followed by several mediocre or just bad films, it kind of negates the success of that one film. And that's kind of what's happened to Pixar. Where like, yeah, they had that massive, historic success with Inside Out 2. But then a lot of the films following it has not really been, not bad, but not really up to par for what you expect for Pixar. And so, I think that's kind of the problem with Pixar is that they've kind of fallen into this. kind of weird slump, kind of like Marvel, where they'll have like a good or massively successful film, but then it's followed by several mediocre or not so good or just straight out bad films. And I think that is an issue for Pixar, where like they have this this non consistent trend of having good to bad to not okay to just whatever films. Um, but I think also the thing about Pixar for me personally, like it seems like Pixar, it just doesn't have that. It doesn't have the same feeling that they used to, like back in the Toy Story, Bugs Life, Incredibles, Finding Nemo, Cars. Pixar, it doesn't have that same feel because back then when you went to see a Pixar film, like it was an event. Like you were excited, like you knew you were going to get like a very new, very interesting film, whether it was Wally, whether it was Ratatouille, whether it was Cars. And each film was very unique, very different, very distinct, but it still had that Pixar feel to it. It had that just that ingredient that Pixar had back then, that emotional element, that relatability element, just the enjoyable element that people like. And then that's not to say that their recent films haven't had that, but it seems like with a lot of the recent films, they're just kind of. It feels like you can get it whenever. Like you can see it whenever it comes out. Maybe not. Maybe I won't see this film. Maybe I'll never see it. That's something I think also that's kind of hurt Pixar is like it seems like now people have kind of just gotten indifferent to Pixar, which was not the case back in the day. Where back when Pixar was at its peak, whenever a Pixar film came out, you had to go see it, whether you were an adult, whether you were a teenager, whether you were a kid, didn't matter who you were. Everybody went to go see a new Pixar film. And now people are just kind of like, well, yeah, I might get around to it, I might not, and that's definitely something that's hurt them. But I think also, and I might be wrong about this, but I feel like being part of Disney, just the association of them with Disney, has hurt them because a lot of people are not too keen on Disney right now. A lot of people are not too high on Disney. People actually are kind of blaming Disney for killing off Star Wars, for the state of Marvel. People look at Disney where franchises go to die now. So kind of being associated with Disney, I think also has kind of had an associative negative effect on Pixar, where people kind of look at Disney and look at Pixar and they're like, well, I just think it's going to be trash anyways because it's with Disney, which is unfortunate that that's the mindset that people have. But I have seen people have that kind of thought process that like anything Disney touches now is just going to be ruined, which is kind of funny because back in the day it was Disney that actually helped and saved Pixar to a degree. And it used to be people would sing endless praises of Disney for having Marvel and looking what they did to the Marvel franchise and what they did for the superhero genre, and then buying Star Wars. And there was a period where like people looked at Disney as like the holy grail of entertainment, where they could do no wrong and everything they touched was like the Midas touch, where it was absolutely perfect and great, and it was for a while. But now people look at Disney and they're kind of like, you haven't been doing too good. And actually, you look at a lot of the major franchises they have, they've either mishandled them, done terribly with them, or just indirectly trying to make money from them, damn near killed them, like Star Wars. And so I think that's also another aspect where people just kind of look at Disney and anything associated with them. They're just kind of like, I don't know. I don't think I'm probably going to check it out. And that's unfortunate. But kind of thinking about like where does Pixar go from here, because they have Toy Story 5 coming out next year. They have Incredibles 3 that's coming out at some point. They have Coco 2 that's going to be coming out, I think, in like 2029 or something like that. And they have Inside Out 3. They haven't really confirmed it, but I'm willing to believe that now they might fast track Inside Out 3 just because of how bad Elio performed, just so they can have another big hit out. So it looks like going forward, they have pretty much nothing but sequels and spin-offs going forward. They have like one original film that's going to come out like in a few years, but other than that, it's nothing but sequels. And I hope that they change that, because even though they haven't done the best at the box office with the original films, I still feel like that's the best way to go. Like, and not to say that you should never do sequels or spin-offs, but if that's all they end up doing, like if we just have a period of Pixar, just sequels and spin-offs and reboots and reimaginings of old properties, I feel like that'll just kill Pixar. Like I think that that'll just kill them because I feel like it'll come to a point where people are going to be done with all of them. Like Toy Story, they're really pushing the grace people have for Toy Story. Like they're really pushing it with five. I can't see a lot of people being too charitable for Toy Story 16 or a Toy Story 19 or a Toy Story 2028 or whatever. I find it hard to see people being really that into or even interested in Toy Story. Like they might be able to squeeze a six or a seven, but if they get to like a Toy Story 9, I think people are gonna be like, okay, fuck this. I'm done. This is ridiculous. I feel like it's gonna be kind of like The Simpsons, where it's like this has far exceeded its shelf life. This should have died and ended a long time ago. Why are we still doing this? And I feel like other franchises like The Incredibles. The Incredibles, I don't know, because I like the second one. I didn't like it more than the first one. But a lot of people I know, and a lot of people in general, were not too keen on the second film. They did not like it. So a third film, I'm not sure, because at least with Toy Story, people liked the first one, the second one, the third one, and then the fourth one got a little bit contentious. But the fact that people didn't even, or were kind of mixed or polarizing on the second Incredibles, not even the third one, that's not too promising prospects for a third one. And then, you got Coco 2, which, I mean, I don't know why they're doing that. Coco, I watched it recently, and that was a fantastic film. So, like, that's the thing, is like, they can make really good original films. Like, Coco was good. I heard Soul was good. I haven't been able to see it yet. But they can make good films. They can make good original films. It's just like it's just too spotty of like a really good hit like Inside Out the original or Inside Out 2 or Coco. Then they just have like a string of like just not so good films. But like the fact that they have all these sequels coming in, and I'm sure that they're probably going to do another Finding Nemo somehow. I don't know how they're going to do that, but at this rate, we might get another Finding Nemo film. And then I hope to God we don't, but we're probably going to get a Ratatouille 2. And that's the one film that people have always said, that at least Ratatouille has not had a sequel. And it's surprising. I'm actually shocked that Pixar and Disney have not actually tried to make a sequel to Ratatouille. But at this rate, I wouldn't be too surprised if we get a Ratatouille 2 or we get like a Ratatouille spin-off series or a show or something. I'm thinking that might actually happen. And God, am I not looking forward to it? I'm not looking forward to Ratatouille having any type of follow up because that film was great on its own. It does not need a sequel. It wrapped up perfectly, and there's really nowhere to go for a second one. The ending wrapped that up perfectly. But that's not stop. I mean, to be honest, that hasn't stopped any studio from making a sequel to something that shouldn't have had it to begin with. So that's not going to stop them. But I do hope that going forward, once they kind of get through this like sequel era they're going through, I hope that they course correct and they have more original films, because to me I kind of look at Inside Out 1 and 2 as like a double-edged sword of the sequel dilemma, because on the one hand, Inside Out 2, which is a sequel, made an insanely ungodly amount of money and became the highest grossing animated film of all time. And Pixar can look at that and say, "Oh, well, see, clearly sequels are the way to go." But on the flip side, Inside Out, the original, was an original film. But had Pixar pre Inside Out just decided to keep making Toy Stories and Finding Nemos and Wally's and Ratatouilles and never made Inside Out, we would have never got Inside Out, the first one, which is a universal classic at this point that people love. And then we wouldn't have gotten the second one, which people love. So I feel like there is that kind of nuance of like, yeah, sequels can make a lot of money and sequels can be profitable, but you also have to have the original films first to be able to have those sequels. You have to have the first one to have a follow up that people are interested in. And the reason why Inside Out 2 worked is not because it was just a sequel, but because people liked the story. It was a universally relatable story. It had fantastic animation. It had great characters. People love the Inside Out universe. And, it's something everyone can relate to, emotional issues, growing up, the issues of being a teenager, being adult, trying to connect to people, not fitting in. It has a lot of themes and a lot of narratives that people can relate to and people can, can understand. And so that's why the film did well. It wasn't just because it was a sequel. And I feel like that's something that Pixar doesn't really take account for is it's not just the sequel that makes the film good, it's the quality of it. And I feel like with so many of these sequels, especially when we're getting on Toy Story 5, like I don't think that this film is going to be that good. Like, I mean, I like Toy Story 4 more than most people, but Toy Story 3 wrapped up the franchise entirely, perfectly. And it didn't need a fourth one. And they made a fourth one. And I thought that the fourth one, once again, wrapped up the story good. And here we are on Toy Story 5, which it's like, I mean, what are we going to do now? I mean, they're going to have like a AI, I think, and like iPad babies and all that, and it's going to be like toys versus technology. Which I mean, there might be something there, but at this point, it's like no, like this franchise should have wrapped up and been done with, or at the very least, if they're insisting on like for Toy Story, at least if they're insisting on having like several more Toy Story films, at least have a different cast of characters, like have a new kid, not Andy, not Andy's kid, not, that other girl from 4, but have like an entirely new group of toys with an entirely different kid, have it be from like, I don't know, like Paris or Sweden, like a whole new different, location, a whole new different environment, whole new different types of toys. Like there's an endless possibility of like different types of toys and dynamics. That could be different. Like that could be engaging. But the problem is they're not going to do that because they know that people, they like Buzz, they like, Woody, they like Andy, they like the core group of toys that everyone has grown up with and knows as being, the Toy Story franchise. So they're never going to do something that different and new. They're going to keep trotting out Woody and trotting out Buzz, even though all of these characters have reached their conclusions in their story. Woody, like I feel like 4 really wrapped up Woody's story well. He decided, you know what? I want to be my own toy. I don't want to be, having to be associated, and my joy and my, purpose being tied to a kid. I just want to be my own toy and go wherever I want to and be played with other kids, everywhere. I thought it wrapped up his story good, and I think that it wrapped up the other Toy Story good. And then now we're gonna I don't even know how is Woody gonna come back now because he's back from that teaser photo. Like we see that Woody's back with the gang now. What? I was like, why? He had his conclusion. He left the toys and went off his own way. And Buzz and Woody understood, like, well, we're going our separate ways. It's just, we're at that point in our lives. And now they're back again for whatever reason. It's the same thing with like, the other franchises, like, Cars. I have more of a soft spot for Cars than most people do. I love the original. A lot of people, maybe not a whole lot, but I like it more than most people do. And I was not a fan of Cars 2. I didn't hate as much as other people did. I did like Cars 3. But I feel like even with like Cars, it's like, I mean, with a fourth one, I mean, I guess you can have, Lightning as like a mentor to the yellow car. But even this, like, I mean, the story's over. It's done, just let Lightning McQueen retire, call it a day. It's like, and that's the problem is like the longer these films keep going on, the more it's just trying to stretch something that is not really there. Like, there's not much more mileage you can get from a lot of these characters. They've been around for so long, and that's the thing is, people I think kind of forget how long a lot of these Pixar franchises have been around. They've been around for a very long time, and it's like at this point, these characters have been through so much. They've gone through so many different experiences. They've had so many multiple conclusions, several different endings that it's like there's nothing you can do with them. And so I do hope that eventually, Pixar just decides to just kind of take it easy with the sequels and focus more on original films because they can still do them. Like it's not like Pixar has lost the ability to make good films because like even Elo, like it's not been negatively received. People like the film, but it's just the box office reception hasn't been. It hasn't matched the reception because I've seen more people praising and liking the film than disliking it. It's just that the box office isn't performing up to the critical reception of it. And like, a film like, Coco. People loved Coco. People like Soul. People have liked a lot of these original films, is that they have to figure out a way of just getting those films to get, that box office reception and the critical reception to have, the perfect combination like they used to. But, with that said, I think I have a call today here. There's not much else to say when it comes to Pixar, but I'll be curious to see, what they end up doing and what they're gonna maybe change going forward with, how Elo's performing at the box office. But with that said, I'm gonna call today here, and I'll see you good people later.